Bum, 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 bum. Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn. You know, I've been saying that for almost 2 years now. Feels like it's such part of my speech that I could wake up in the middle of my sleep hearing a door knock and spit out, it's 420. Time to grind and burn. You know, some of you have been with me since the beginning. Others are new and recent. But there's one thing I hope that after listening to just any number of shows throughout the last couple years, you've gotten the sense that I'm here working for this community to make this show a community show. A show that has something that gives back to the community more than just war stories of the last time you get high or how to roll the best joint or what happens when you mix keef with wax and you dab it through a beer funnel or some of the craziness that's going on out there. You know, back in 2013, it was right around this time. I was right in the middle of my first recording, trying to figure out what I was doing, figuring out what a podcast was, what an RSS feed was, spending literally 2 weeks on my first episode. Now I've got it down to about 3 or 4 days, but it took 2 weeks to get my first episode, show number 1, up and going. It's right around October when I finally decided I'm going to do this. There's no holding back. This is what I've been thinking about for well over a year. I knew almost exactly what I wanted to do. I just wasn't sure how, and I was lacking some technical skills. But there was one thing that I had going for me, is that every week I listened to a show called The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson, your own personal podcast coach, once a week. And I would listen to how 1, 2, 3 stepped it was, and here's what you had to do, and here's what other people were doing. It wasn't a celebrity show. It wasn't some celebrity who was out there pulling in his fans and trying to be entertaining. It was a tactical show. It was about teaching people how to do something. And that's what really motivated me. I mean, I tell people the years I've been listening to podcasts like Joe Rogan and Adam Carolla and, you know, just all the other ones, Freakonomics and all these other podcasts I listen to, very popular ones. The reality was, it was a tactical show that was actually talking about here's what you do when you wake up in the morning to get a podcast on the air. That actually propelled me forward to do this. So when I was putting together my own format, and yes, there is a format. It's one of the things I learned. Just because it's not radio doesn't mean you can't have a format. Matter of fact, you have to have a format. And when you listen to podcasts that try to wing it or have no format or set format or are just a turn on the microphone and start talking type show, you can really get the sense of quality production and who's really trying to make an effort to put together a show that somebody can listen to. So listening to the School of Podcasting, you know, just has a few followers, a few thousand followers, week after week talking about here's how you set up an RSS feed. This is the type of equipment you need to get going. This is what it's used for. This is how you do it. Here's how you go out and you talk to somebody. Here's how you acquire interviews. I finally said, I'm going to do it. So I used the excuse of helping a friend work on his marketing to have his product sold, and I suggested a podcast as being a way to market that product. But the reality was I had been thinking about it and trying to figure out how to get towards that end goal long before. That was more or less the excuse that I was able to latch onto. So I did that, and I put together a show, and it took weeks. And I got it out there. And as soon as it played, where I said, Saturdays at 4:20, I immediately felt that sense of obligation. I got to get working on my next show. I have to immediately get working on my next show because people are going to expect a show next week. And that's one of the things that Dave Jackson in the School Podcast talked about is consistency was more important than overproduction, which means if you spend weeks or months working on a fabulous podcast, but as a result, it sporadically comes out and people never really know when it's coming out and there's no schedule, all that great quality will be overlooked because your viewers don't know where to find you, right? Imagine watching your favorite show, Sopranos, Friends, you know, whatever it is you're watching, but never knowing what night of the week it was going to be on, or what time, or what channel. Well, as soon as you put a podcast out or write a blog, you feel obligated to do it again. So I immediately got working on the next show. I wasn't quite sure who was going to be lined up, so I just started calling on my friends. I started writing emails to people who looked like they were in the industry. I started cold emailing people to see if they wanted to be on my show. And little by little, I got responses, and I would go out with my little microphone, do my interviews, ask my questions, come back, put it together, and week after week, just keep formatting what was going on here. Up and down that road, worn out shoes, talking about good times and singing the blues. You went your way and I stayed behind. We both knew it was just a matter of time. And I would see the audience, little by little would grow. Not very much, but it would grow. It wasn't going backwards. I would see the numbers increasingly go up, just at a very slow rate. But it gave me a sense of purpose where after I was about 15 shows in, a good few months, I truly felt like, well, this is who I am now. This is who I am. This is my career. I can't go back. I have too much vested in this. And I kept moving forward. And it's tiring. It's tiring because I do 90+% of it on my own, by myself, from the editing to the content to the writing to everything else. And it takes a long time to really put together an actual show. And again, I emphasize that because it's not just a turn the microphone on, talk, turn the microphone off, upload to the internet. There is a whole production that goes into it. And even after it's fully edited and put together, there's a master mix that goes into it. Thank you to Mark at Derry Berry's recording studio. Every week, mixing my stuff to make it sound better and louder and clearer. And I'm going through the audio minute by minute, editing it, making it sound to a point where I feel like I'm not a professional, but I have an obligation to the audience to do my best to make it sound as good as possible. And I was out there, and I looked back after year one, right? Did this big end of the year one production, started year two, worked my way through, and honestly, I'm proud of every single show I do, and I put so much work into it. 20 plus hours, maybe close to 30 hours every week just to get that 1 hour of audio out. Constantly reaching out to people, trying to get them to be involved, trying to give them a channel to use the show as their own. And it's getting to a point where I'm questioning how much more can we go forward before it starts to pay off, because I've been footing the bill myself this whole time, and it just hasn't taken off to a point where it's been able to thoroughly support sponsors, thoroughly support even myself doing it. I give you jewelry and money too, but that ain't all. That ain't all I do for you. I have to go work other part-time jobs, minimum wage type stuff, just to pay the rent. I wish I could work on this full-time, but I'm not sure what else to do. I've put together store items to sell. I've put together advertising packages for sponsors. I put work into the show. I get people involved. I use the social media, but it's not a rock star show. So maybe a Cannabis Community Project will find a different show to do. Don't wanna believe what they're telling me. Someone been picking in my cherry tree. I'll be back in 2016. I'm just not sure where this show is going to go. I would have hoped that those listening would like it, and that if they liked it, they would share it with their friends and other people would like it. But there's one thing that I've been hearing over and over from many different people, not directly to me, just about the general topic of becoming successful. And I have to look at the reality because I'm ending my second year of doing this. I guess the audience is speaking, It's an average show, but it's not that great. And it's not one that's going to take off and, hockey stick its way into a stardom. People say they would prefer to just listen to shows about other nonsensical topics, or to shows that have a lot more money to put into more of a radio style production, where it's a fully produced show and they have a whole staff and a crew working so they can make a high quality show. So that was my end goal. But to get there, it has to be funded. I think I'm crazy, I think I'm oh so insane. I got this reality disorder and it's affecting my brain. And the funding starts with an organic audience engaging in things like sponsorships and store purchases, sharing and growing that audience and helping you grow him. I really thought that there was a show I could put together to help entrepreneurs and people in an entertaining way learn about what it takes to start a business and how to get out there and do it in a tactical sense. Just like the School of Podcasting gave me a tactical day-by-day, here's what you do. When you wake up in the morning, here is how you produce a podcast. Not a hypothetical, this is conceptually of what goes on and how it should work, but actually, what is an RSS feed? How do you get one? And how do you start uploading content to it? How do you get that RSS feed to link up with other sites so you can get a mass distribution? How do you record? What kind of microphone do I need? Do I need a dynamic microphone? Do I need a condenser microphone? Do I do it in a studio? Do I do it out in the public? What kind of recorder? So many questions. I recently reached out to a broader network to try to get some exposure, and I asked them, what if I, for free, started an incubator program where you could take who you thought were talented podcasters, up and coming, expose them to your larger network, and see if they would grow to then attract sponsorship, like an incubator, an accelerator, or startup type program. And they looked at my site, and they looked at the numbers, and they said, it looks good, you're doing good, but we have a minimum weekly engagement of 30,000. And currently you're sitting at about 1,000. I said, yes, but there are 1,000 highly focused people in cannabis specifically looking for this type of content about business, entrepreneurial, long form type stuff. They said, I'm sorry, we just can't help you until you hit that 30,000 per show mark. But they said, hey, this other guy that you clicked on, this YouTube video, is he part of your network? And I looked and I said, oh no, that was just some video I clicked on that I liked. Just some guy just doing some nonsensical kind of marijuana talk stuff on a little YouTube video, and there's not really anything there. And their response was, oh, well, if he were part of your network, maybe, because he's getting about 10,000 likes a week. As they stick the knife in and twist it. And I thanked them for their time and hung up. Sat back and looked at it and said, well, there's the market speaking, right? Overwhelmingly, the audience out there is guys sitting around showing you how to roll cross joints and twister joints and how high you can get. That's what people want to listen to or watch. Whereas my show might be a little too niched, might be a little too small of an audience. So I might have to branch out and figure out what else can I do. You see, the question is, do I jeopardize my own integrity of what I believe an ethical standard of what I'm trying to do? Do I simply start producing content because I know it's clickbait, it'll get likes, stoners will click it and watch it and share it with their friends and check this out. But if you want to talk about something serious and something real, and you want to get into the lives of people, and you want to learn about what they did and where they're coming from to see if it can help you, is that audience non-existent in cannabis? Can cannabis not support that type of audience? I've had many shows where I've talked to people about my personal issues, and I've had many shows where I've just straight up talked to people about, techniques of business, marketing, entrepreneurship. And I've had many shows where I've just listened to people. I try to make my show not so question response, but more interactive conversation. I want to give as much as me to my guest as my guest is giving to me. I don't want to just be simply a recorder of their responses to my questions. I want to engage. So I try to make my shows as personal as possible about who I am and who I'm coming from, where I'm coming from, what I'm all about as I engage with my guests, despite the fact that I don't actually give my name on the show. Brainstorm came about because the very first show I did, I was supposed to do at a different studio, and they required all their podcast or DJs or whatever to have a moniker of some sort. So Brainstorm seemed like a natural fit to the type of show I wanted to do. It was a show where I envisioned this conversational interaction where the guest was talking about their experience and I was giving my experience, and together we would talk about the issues and barriers they're facing, and as a result of that, a brainstorm session would take place. One more look from her and I just might take her home for the night. Where are we when I gave up and let you be? I was lost a bit of my own, never wanted to be wrong. Oh, my girl, come back to me. Where was I? Where was I when it turned the other guy? Never meant to make. You want to know how lonely and depressed you are? Start a business and tell people about it. And then you'll find yourself all alone, realizing your friends and family and all those you thought were in your network maybe aren't as tight-knit as you thought, or as supportive. My business, my show, my life was my way out, what I thought was my way out. What I still think is my way out. I'm just not sure where to go with it. I'm struggling, like many people. I have the same emotions. I mean, I may be Brainstorm, right? Guy with a million ideas, but I still have emotional fluxes. Some people might call me mental. I truly am out there trying to help people as an attempt to help myself. I've always believed if you help other people, you will help yourself. You will get what you want. By helping people get what they want. Maybe I just don't know what people want. Maybe I don't know what I want. I always thought I knew what I wanted. But I guess if you look back at it, that's not true. Probably explains why I have so much random education all over the place. From never really knowing what you want, maybe. Switching careers multiple times. Yeah, it's funny how time slips away. I used to think life was bad years ago because I got a DUI, kind of lost my career and didn't have much going for me. And then things changed, and then things got bad, and then things got better. And this is the problem with people who suffer from depression or crazy people who try to start their own businesses, is when things are high, you think they're good forever and nothing can stop you. And then something happens and you wonder why you even got involved in the first place. Maybe I would have been better off 17 years ago just staying at Wells Fargo Bank, working my way up through the chain, middle management, wherever it takes me, pulling in a decent 70, maybe even 80 figure a year. Maybe that is where I should have stayed. Maybe that was the mistake. Like a bird lost its mate and fly. I'm so alone now, I'm losing night. Like a piece of driftwood on the sea. May you never be alone like me. I believe the lies are told to me when you whisper, dear, I worship thee. Here I am, alone and blue, all because I love no one but you. I gave up my friends, I left my home when you promised to be mine alone. Now you're gone, could never be. May you never be alone like me. But then again, if time doesn't exist, what does it matter? Whether I have 20 years at a bank or 20 years of struggling to find my path. Let's say I assumably find it tomorrow. Well, that would mean I still potentially have 40, maybe 50 years of life to journey that path with. I could switch careers again and still have a full life of a career, but maybe not. Am I old? Am I young? I don't even know anymore. It's like time doesn't really exist, but it does. How can two things contradictory exist? How can time not exist where it doesn't matter whether I'm 20 or 38 or 92? Every day you live your life is what you're doing. If I'm 76 years old and I decide I want to be a doctor, can I do that? Can I be a lawyer at 45? Can I be a musician at 62? Well, time seems to exist in that state. So what do I do now? I've been a banker, I've been a marketer, I've been a finance guy, I've been a mortgage guy, I've been a salesman, been a media guy, been a teacher. Well, who am I? What do I do? If this doesn't work out, what do I do? See, the reality is after a few months, the small incremental increases of listens to my show should have said that it was never really going to take off. Now I'm 2 years in. Am I still living the same delusion, the same dream, the same lie? But what if I give it up, but tomorrow was the day that I met a sponsor who wants to fund the whole show for a year so I can really invest in it? Or what if tomorrow is the day that it just happens to be the right moment when thousands more people across the internet discover it and listen to it and share it? I have no place else to go, even if it is failing. Does that mean I'm a loser? I don't know. See, I have to question every day my own validity. This is the struggle of an entrepreneur, is that you are alone, even if you're in a team. Because I guarantee you, that team is not equally split as far as who's in it to win it, who started it, whose idea was it, who has an out and who doesn't. Yeah, maybe you and your partner started this business together, but maybe he has a fallout plan that if this doesn't work out, he has something he can go back to. Do you? See, I talk to people who say they want to be involved, and then they go and get jobs elsewhere. In the twilight, oh, I see her. Blue eyes crying in the rain. When we kissed and parted, I knew we'd never meet again. I can remember being a little kid and my attraction to microphones and cameras. I can remember at the YMCA, I was probably 11, 10. We visited a radio station. I was so memorized, I was almost paralyzed. I remember visiting the local news station, seeing the studio and the camera, having the guy do the green screen, or blue screen then, it was a blue screen. Little magic tricks of how his clothes and body would disappear. I would go home with my friends and we would play out movies and scenes. I remember thinking being a director of a movie would be the life. Just what a life, to be able to direct stories and bring people together to just make stories that other people can watch. How enthralled I was with the DJs on the local FM stations versus the actual music. Although music has always been a huge part. I make it so much part of this show because that's the integration it is in my life. There's always a musical note bouncing around in my head. See, I integrate the music into this show because I think it's a good transition and it's entertaining. But music tells so much of a story. Like when you're watching a movie, imagine a movie with no soundtrack. If there was a way to carry thematic music around with you everywhere you went, I'm sure life would be more exhilarating. So the idea was, what if I could make a show where it sounded like a piece of life that was happening and you got to drop in on it? And this is why the musical transitions have that fade effect that I try to accomplish. You're wrapped up in a good tune, and then you just kind of drop right in, slide right in to a moment of life of somebody in conversation. And then when you get the meat of that, it slides back out, right? That was the idea. I didn't want it to be a structured conversation like today I'm going to introduce my host and they're going to tell us about themselves and their product. Because then people are self-aware, right? We don't want to be like the Terminator. We don't want to be self-aware. We want the conversation to be organic. So when I set up the microphones, and I really wish I had another person and a video person to kind of do it behind the scenes, shoot or whatever, make little YouTube videos, because I think it's cool to see how it works. Most of the time I'm not in the studio. I'm either out in somebody's home or business or outside, setting up my mobile studio and having a conversation. And I do it in a way where I try to blend it in so it sounds natural, where we start the conversation as I'm setting up the microphones. What they don't know is I've already turned on my recorder. There's a whole step and a process to how I go about it. I open the bag, I turn on the recorder, then I start to take stuff out. That actually came about very naturally because that's an old in-home sales, muscle memory going on there. From my years and years of showing up to somebody's home, knocking on their door, not knowing who's going to answer, having to go into somebody's home, go from entering as a stranger to sitting down with somebody, talking about personal details, and then asking them to write you checks, all in a single setting, is something that takes a long time to learn, and it takes a lot of practice. It's not a very natural thing to do, sales. But because of that, I think when I show up to a place now and I just have my little suitcase of microphones and equipment, it feels very natural to just come into their place, their domain, and immerse myself with it, but yet still be kind of in control of it because there's a purpose why I'm there. Today, my purpose is to have a conversation. In the years past, it would be to have somebody write a check. But maybe metaphorically, it's the same thing. Somebody writing a check, in a sense, is saying, I trust you, I like you, I want to do something with you, here is my money after meeting you once. Where when you meet somebody cold with a microphone and they open up to you, they write you that check by being honest and open, conversational, fluid, not even thinking about the microphone, the headphones, and the actual environment of the setup, but getting into that conversation like it's just you and that person in a dark room, drinking a bottle of bourbon and smoking a joint and just having a conversation. That is writing the check for me. Because that's when you truly get something out of somebody that just comes across as natural and organic and real. And they start giving information that's truth. And when it's heard by others, there's something that happens there where it's recognized as truth and organic. And in a sense, it's the same high. They've written me that check. They said, I trust you and I like you enough to talk to you in such a manner that allows you to ask questions and me respond to those questions wherever they may take. That's the intimacy of podcasting. And that's what I've always been looking towards for my show and my interviews. The one-on-one, cold, stranger. Will they write you that check?
Could have been a sailor, could have been a cook, a real-life lover, could have been a book. I could have been a sun pole, could have been a clock, simple as a kettle, steady as a rock. I could be here now. I would be, I should be, but how? I could have been one of these things first. Could have been one of these things first.
It's weird how personality traits like shyness and being introverted create such barriers in life when you're younger. I can remember being a kid and being petrified of the public speaking, of going in front of the class, of even having to just talk to somebody one-on-one, because I was so guarded that any form of communication to me was revealing something about me that couldn't be taken back or hidden. I almost felt like if somebody knew who I was or knew something about me, then I was somehow trapped. They got me. They knew me. I couldn't change or be different. I had this idea, and it's weird how I remember these things now when I'm older, but when I was younger and in my 20s, even these kind of thoughts never really existed. And then now as I'm, to say it, approaching 40, these memories seem to surface even more. I can remember being so petrified of me talking or being anything, but yet at the same time so drawn to microphones and cameras. It was almost like subliminally, subconsciously, I was being told, here's your way out from insanity. And not to say that, and I'm not really going to go into what, my childhood was and what those issues were or are. We all have them, right? We all have those issues. We all have something. Doesn't matter how traumatic. I mean, you could be a 9-year-old kid in some war-torn country having to have an AK-47 put in your hands and trained how to kill people, or you could just be somebody else who has their own issues that are still more intimate but not as extreme, right? I mean, obviously very few of us have ever grown up in that type of situation. Most of our issues are things like probably abandonment and parent issues and, things that usually stem from childhood. And I would say mostly based around that immediate family relationship. Whereas obviously there's people's problems in other countries where they're having to face situations just like that. Their children are being ripped out of their arms and being forced into armies and trained how to kill people, at young ages. That's a reality of the world we live in. It's not my reality, and it's not really one I can even think I know how to understand or comprehend to it. So when I look at my own issues, you feel kind of silly, right? You feel kind of silly, which I think is a mistake, because I think that leads people to further depression. This idea that you should feel silly about your issues because somebody else has it worse out there. And somehow that embarrassment or shame of revealing, first world problems, that's the old style of thinking. do this because somebody else has it worse, so you should be happy. Well, we shouldn't base our happiness off of the lowest common denominator of what's the worst possible thing that can be going on in the world. And if we're above that by whatever percentage, then we should be grateful and happy. Well, yes, we should be grateful and happy. But for some reason, a good percentage of us aren't. And we look for things like drugs or extreme situations, relationships. And here's one that maybe nobody's ever thrown at you: entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurism sometimes is that same person who's in the dysfunctional relationships, who's addicted to something. There's something that seems to match up that world with being an entrepreneur. I'm very comfortable in my world of entrepreneurship, even though it's always on the verge of never being able to pay the rent, always being basically virtually unemployed, and somehow feeling like you're still succeeding amongst all of it. I mean, since I was a young kid, I've attempted, I don't know how many times I could count on multiple hands, to be an entrepreneur. But it wasn't until cannabis came along when I actually had the chance to feel like here's an opportunity to be successful and know it and know the path to take and really just have the timing be right. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe it took all those years since I was young all the way up till now, basically, right? Every day is now. Even yesterday, I was still not as good as today. Because today, I'm practicing on being better, right? Today, I'm going to be a better host of my radio show than yesterday. Because right now, I'm practicing. I'm on the microphone. Yesterday, I wasn't. Tomorrow, I'm going to be even better, and so forth and so forth. As I explained to my good friend one time about getting old, I said I actually kind of look forward to it. And he said, why? I said, well, if you look at all the things that have engulfed my life for the last 5, 10 plus years and counting, and this was years ago, so now it's even more years. I said, look at some of the things I do. I mean, just anything where there's a skill involved, like making media, producing media, speaking a second language, practicing Aikido, practicing the guitar, working on academic research and discovery to become more educated about certain topics. Now take all of those basic things and the other stuff you do and multiply it by 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So if you've gotten as good as you are up to this point, si nadie me ha visto tocar la guitarra o hablar español o hacer alguna de estas otras cosas de que estoy hablando, entonces...
Hey, calma, man, calma. Yo sé que tienes un nuevo amor. Sin embargo, deseo lo mejor.
Because in this world, there's so much you can do where you can just get better at it. And it has nothing to do with grabbing the youth of age. So as soon as I start feeling depressed about, well, shit, why didn't I start this in my 20s? What was I doing? Well, you know what? Doesn't matter. Because I can start it today. And today, I can still do it for another 20, 30, 40 years. And nobody's going to argue that once you have those many years, you're not a badass motherfucker professional. So it doesn't matter whether I started at 30 or started at 50 or started at 9, swinging a golf club or playing the guitar. The point is I started. And from this day forward, I can get better at it. So that's how I know that, you know what, the audience might be small, but it doesn't matter. Because I can still get better at what I'm doing, so I can make the show better. I can get better at marketing, I can get better at social media, I can get better at distributing this show, I can get better at getting guests, I can get better guests, I can do everything better from today forward. Which means it doesn't matter whether for the last 2 years I've been struggling. It doesn't matter whether the audience barely grows by percentages every week versus leaps and bounds. The point is I can get better starting today. And this is what makes me realize that it doesn't matter. The point is there are people listening. Like you right now. Yes, you are listening and you can get better with me. And together we can make each other better. And it doesn't matter if there's just a few handfuls of us right now. As we get better, we will get bigger. We're going to go into 2016. We're going to develop multiple more shows. We're going to do it from a permanent studio. I don't want to give away too many details, but for the last couple months, I've been talking with Jay Griffin at Dank Dispensary, recreational and medical. It has a very large facility. And we're going to put our studio there. We're going to do more events. We're going to do more shows. We're going to make a retail store that's exciting to see what products are in it and people want to buy that so they can help support us. We're going to make content that people want to share and it goes viral so we can get monetized videos and make money. We're going to make this happen. This is the Cannabis Community Project. It's not just my show. This is your show. Goodbye, 2015. And fuck off.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot.
Can't you tell that it's been hard for me, sitting in the lap of luxury?
sweet smile, but I forget your name. Met you once, but I'm not to blame. Drink in hand, and it's a shame that I'm not better. A hand to hold when I feel sweet, and then there's cold, and then there's me. Look out for 23. Maybe I'll be better. Ooh, no.
How many moons has it been, darling? How many months since June? And how many lonesome wandering around with you, wandering and wondering like they do. Turn the right way, we'll just hold on for 5 more minutes. The tide will go back down. Just hold on for 3 more seconds. I think I might have felt my feet touch the ground.
I'm getting closer to the fact I turned my back on the silly dream. I'm walking down that lonely road, and my heavy load, I didn't bother to bring it. And the sun shine down on me, I feel like I deserve it. He was dead, he never lived. He died, 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 seeking a cause. Heard the warning, seeking the cause, 'cause he heard the crying of the hungry ghetto children. Heard the traffic paving the routes to new prison. Seeking a cause, seeking a cause. He was dead on arrival, he never really lived. Uptown, downtown, cross town, body found all over town. Seeking the cause, seeking the cause.
Eli, the barrel boy of the old town, sells coal and marigolds, and he cries out all down the day. Below the tamaracks, he is crying.
When it comes to staying, I'll be leaving. When it comes to going down the road, when it comes to starting, I'll be ending. End up wherever I may roam, wherever I may roam.
Must have been a day in the spring, must have been one of your broken wings, must have been a long time ago that your heart was broke before. Sorry I asked for more. You've flown before but not with me, and there's height from ground is crazy, but it's just time before we tumble back to gravity. Somehow I'd rather you just tell me now.
Compliments you, and it feels awful sensual. Don't drop all your defenses. Hang on the vow of an escape. No.
Check, check, yo. Check, check, Brainstorm. I'm running with some of the endless flows of pro at bringing the ruckus. We kill them all, roll a fall, keeping this shit above it. I buzz like a bumble, drop drawers whenever I rumble. You said you write rhymes, but it sound like you got carpal tunnel.
I belong in an asylum. These psychopathic tendencies tend to get the best of me. I've been exuberant since I was in the uterus, malignant like a tumor is servicing hysterectomies. Scalpel please for surgery. I cut precise as I murder beats. Why act humanized while humans lie? I'd rather protrude your mind and crucify these crucial lies. Independent forever, that's the vendetta, better bring Berettas. I'm acting reckless, call the paramedics. You should diet if you're diabetic, and you could die if you feel neglected. Cause in my city, gotta earn your stripes to feel respected. I'm next up, investing in and trying to buy Colorado. That's the motherfucking motto where I'm from. Every day yelling out, Acre on the top of my lungs. Everything in that.
of Dakota lived a young boy named Rocky Raccoon. Well, one day his woman ran off with another guy. He hit young Rocky and I. Well, Rocky didn't like that. He said, I'm gonna get that boy. So one day he walked into town and booked himself a room up in the local saloon. Oh, rockin', he checked into his room, only to find Gideon's Bible. Well, Rocky had come equipped with a gun to shoot off the legs of his rival. Well, his rival, it seems, had broken his dreams by stealing a girl of his fancy. Well, her name was McGill, and she called herself Little, but everyone knew her as Nancy. Well, now she and her man, who called himself Dan, were in the next room at the hold down.
Well, folks, I think that wraps it up for us today. I'd like to thank you very much for listening. Have a good day. Hey, Cannapreneurs. This week's show is sponsored by Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Please welcome Cushley, Odor Eliminator. Give him a welcome. Reach out and say hi.
Yeah, the 6 degrees of Cushley. It's amazing.